Armbian.
Hello everybody, I am NicoD. First of all, I've got to say there is somebody working on thumbnails for my videos and also on branding for Armbian. So that is very good. Thank you, Jim, for the great work you do. So you have seen the thumbnail that he made for this video and I like it a lot, so that is great. So last year I bought a new PC, so it is here, the Ryzen 3700X. So that means that I've got an old PC. My old PC is here, the i5 2500K. So I don't use my old PC anymore, so I can use it for something else. So I was thinking, what can I use it for? Of course, I can install Armbian and I can build images, Armbian images on it. So I am going to prepare it to make an Armbian build server from it. So I am also going to use an extra Odroid HC4. So I took out the hard drives from this PC and I will put it in here. So here is a 3 TB hard drive. It's got my MP3s on it and movies on it. And it's got 1 TB of free space. So I'm going to use that. And I also have a second drive that's still in my new PC copying games. So I'm going to use that second drive in here too. So I'm going to do two things in this video. I am going to install Armbian on an x86 PC. So on my old PC, I'm going to set it up to be a build server to build Armbian images. And I'm going to set up this, the Odroid HC4, to be a NAS. So what I'm going to do is I will put the build script on here and I will build the images directly on the NAS. Then I can shut down my PC when all the images are built, because this uses a lot of energy while this consumes next to nothing. So it is a lot better to have this 24 hours running except than this. So that's it. So let's start with installing Armbian UEFI x86 on this PC and make it a build server. Then I will put it downstairs next to my router and plug it directly into the Ethernet. And I will install this one too. So here we go! So the first thing I do is of course write the Armbian image to an SSD. So this is the same as you would do with any other Armbian image for an SBC. I am using an image from a developer because the downloadable Armbian UEFI images aren't that good yet. So once that is done, I put my SSD into my PC. It is the only thing that is connected. There are no hard drives anymore. There is one SSD that is not connected with my old Windows on it. I will leave that in there. You never know if I can use it in the future for a nostalgia project. So now I boot my PC. And here we are in Armbian. And as always we put in our password, our command shell, our name, connect Wi-Fi, select our country. And after all that, here we are in the desktop of the first boot of Armbian. So first thing to do, as always, sudo apt update. Then I install all the programs that I always install on every Armbian installation. So Console, the Mati System Monitor, GNOME Disk Utility and the XFCE4 goodies. All this isn't necessary for what I am going to do with it. I even don't need a desktop for it, but I always like to have a desktop because it is easier to work with. So I set it up as I always do. You can slow it down in YouTube if you want to see how I am doing it. Or watch another video of mine where I do this. I show it in a lot of videos. I like my XFCE4 setup way too much to use another desktop. The only desktop that comes close is the Mati desktop, but this is more modern. Now that is done, let's show you some Ntfs and Helix info to show you that it is GPU accelerated. So there is an AMD graphics card in this PC I actually don't need it, I could take it out. So the next thing I do is download the Armbian build script. I am using a different branch, so I am using the Armbian next branch. Use the normal branch if you want normal results. I want special results. I want to know what is happening when something is happening. So I use this. For the normal branch, just use that. Once that is downloaded, there is one more thing to install, that is x11vnc. This so I can use VNC to log into the desktop of this computer. So sudo apt install x11vnc. And now let's try it. So to start it, x11vnc -- use pw to use a password so it is secure. And now on my Windows computer I've opened VNC Viewer and I type the IP address. If you don't know the IP address, type IP space A in the terminal. So I type my password. And we are connected with our desktop. So that is working, that is great. So one more thing now, so the power consumption. So as an example, here I am doing a Blender render on this PC. And let's check what it consumes. And it is almost 200 watts. So that is really crazy. I don't want this to be on 24/7. So when it is in idle, it is a little less than 80 watt. No, a little less than 90 watts. So that is really a lot. I can power like 20 SBCs with that, even more. The Raksha Zero, I could, 100 and even more. So for that reason, don't use old PCs 24/7 for NAS or so. Use a good ARM SBC. But now I'm gonna put this downstairs. So I plug in my Ethernet cable. That is the most important thing. And I have to cheat a little bit because it needs a display to be able to use x11vnc. So I've got my small display and I will connect that. So here it is. I will only connect it for booting. Once it has booted, I will just take it off and I can use it for x11vnc. It is just a cheat. There are other ways to do it, but this is the lazy way. So all I need to do is boot and then log in. Once that is done, I can use my x11vnc. So now on my Windows computer I open a terminal, well, a Windows terminal, Windows command prompt, and as you can see I checked on my router what my IP address is, and it is 35. So I do SSH NicoD at 192.168.1.35 and I give my password. And here I can start x11vnc, so x11vnc -- use pw. Now I can open VNC Viewer on my Windows computer, and again with the same IP address I can open a VNC terminal, type my password again, and here we are. So now I can build images on here and I can use it for whatever stuff I need it to do. So let's resize this window a little bit And let's do our first build. So I open console and I do ls to see where it is installed, and there it is, Armbian next. So cd Armbian next. I am using Azerty, Nico, not QWERTY. And here it is, and now let's start it. sudo./compile.sh. And to give me a bit more options, export equals yes. So let's do a full OS. Do not change any kernel configurations. And I want an OS for my Odroid HC4. So go down. And here we have got Odroid HC4 current. I want a focal with desktop and XFCE. So this is going to take a few hours. I will not show you the boring process. So let's hope it will work. The first time it takes hours on a slow PC, but the next time it will be faster. And the more images you have built, the more cache it has and the faster it will build. Many hours later I have finished building an Armbian image for UEFI x86, Armbian jammy current with kernel 5.15 and the XFCE desktop. And I also finished building an image for the Odroid HC4. So the build server is working. That is part 1. Now let's install the Odroid HC4. I did build an image for the Odroid HC4, but I'm not gonna use that for now. So I'm going to use an image that is downloadable from the downloads page from Armbian. That way I can see how the state is of these downloadable images. And everyone else can also use the same image. So at the download page I go to the Odroid HC4 and there I use Armbian jammy with the XFCE desktop. Yes, I am going to use a desktop on this NAS. I always find it handy to have a desktop installed. When you don't need it, you still have got the console to use. But when you need a desktop, you can use the desktop. And I've got the space on my SD card, so why not install a desktop? So after I wrote that image onto an SD card, all I need to do is plug in my SD card. And also my USB 3 hub. It is better to use a USB 2 hub because these USB 3 ports have got interference with 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi dongles. But I don't have any USB 2 hub in spare. And then I take out my PSU for the Odroid HC4. Watch out, this needs to be 15 volts. So mine is 15 volts, 4 amps. So it can handle quite a bit. It is a bit stupid that they use different voltages for different boards, but because this is powering full hard drives, it needs 12 volts, so it is best to have more than 12 volts to have a stable voltage. So I also plug in HDMI, and then I plug in the power, and we can boot for the first time. And then we are greeted with this window if you haven't booted it yet. So for me this is the first boot of this Odroid HC4. So I get greeted with this window from Petit Boot. So I'm going to remove Petit Boot because I want it to boot into Armbian if the power would be cut, for example. So everything is explained on the Armbian download page. So here Petit Boot console methods. That is what I'm going to use, so all I need to do is type these 4 commands. So that is what I do. And when that is done, I can plug out the power and reboot the system. And we are booting into Armbian. So I again do the initial setup, and then I'm booted into the desktop. I had one problem here. So I had a problem with the apt servers. So I couldn't do sudo apt upgrades. It fails because one of the apt servers isn't available, so for that I've got a workaround. So I open this file, and there we change the server to imola.armbian.com/apt. And now I can do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. I then again installed all my default applications, so the multi-system monitor, the GNOME disk utility, XFCE4 goodies and console. And I again set up my desktop the way I wanted to. This again isn't important because it is an NAS. I'm not going to use the desktop much. Now I'm going to show you how I did my Samba configuration. It isn't the way it is supposed to be, but I tried it with fstab and I didn't get write access to my drives. So I again do it on my own way as I do it on my Orange Pi Plus 2 NAS. I've created this text file with the explanation. So this is to share an Ntfs file system that comes out of a Windows computer. So the permissions are a bit strange on Windows computers. So we need to use a few fixes. So the first fix is Ntfs Fix and then the drive name. So for example here I have got SDA1. So Ntfs Fix /dev/SDA, and let me show you the drive. So this is the drive and that is the drive name, so SDA1. So that's a partition. I have already done it, but I'm just showing how to do it. So then I created my folders where I want to mount my drives. So here for example mount /1 terabyte Ntfs. I actually done it in media, but this was just an example. So I also done that for my 3 terabyte file system. Then the next thing I've done was create a short mount script. Just because there are 2 drives to mount, I created this script. So all it does is mount my SDB2, so that is my 3 terabyte hard drive, to media/3TB Ntfs, and the same for my 1 terabyte drive. So every time I boot this system, I will run this script. I can do that automatically, but I rather do it manually, so I know what is happening. I only reboot my NAS machines about 2 times a year, so I don't lose much time by SSHing into it, and then run this script. Then the next thing to do is install Samba. That is simple, so just sudo apt install Samba. Then we need to configure Samba. So for that I'm going to use Genie, so sudo genie /etc/samba/smb.conf. And there we add what we need. So for me it was this. So just do that for your drives with the correct names. Then the next thing to do is add our Samba password. So for that we type sudo smb passwd -a and then your username. So for me NicoD. And then 2 times type your password. And now we will restart our Samba service. So sudo service smbd restart. And now we should be able to log in with our Windows computer. So on my Windows computer I now open a file explorer and I type // and then the IP address of my HC4. So here we've got my drives. Here are my MP3s. My On the Road with NicoD. Now let's try if I can write on these drives. So let's search a file. So let's copy this, the thumbnail. So paste it, and it works. So that's done. So let's test my other drive, my 1TB drive, and I can also write on it. So I've got the right permissions for it. So that is working. Just one more thing. Let me show you how much the Odroid HC4 consumes with 2 hard drives plugged in. So I am copying files from my 3TB hard drive. I am doing a Blender render on the Odroid HC4. It has got 2 hard drives installed, and let's see what it consumes, and it consumes 36 watts, so that is a lot less than my PC. So I rather have this 24/7 running than my PC for a NAS, so that is why ARM SBCs are great to use as a NAS, and certainly the Odroid HC4, because you can plug in full hard drives. So now I put my Odroid HC4 downstairs next to my router. I plug in my Ethernet cable, and I plug the Ethernet cable in my router, and it is the last position, so I'm gonna have to buy a new router. And all that I need to do is plug in the power, and now I can see if it works on my Windows computer. So here we are on my router page, and here is the Odroid HC4 number 2, and the IP address is 60. So now I open a command, so cmd, and I log in with my SSH, so SSH NicoD at 192.168.1.60. Yes. And I type my password. Now all I need to do is start the mount script, so sudo /bin/bash./mount.sh, and type my passwords. And that has worked. Now I can open a file explorer and //192.60 and type my credentials. And here are my drives, and can I write on them? So let's try again with this file. And let's paste it into my movies folder. And that works. So that is done. So now I am done. So I have got my x86 PC as an Armbian builder, and I've set up my Odroid HC4. So when I am done building images on my x86 PC, I will copy the images to my NAS, and then I can shut down the builder and I can access my images everywhere I want. So the making of this video took me a week. I have had a lot of problems, and together with one of the Armbian developers we have fixed all the problems that I've encountered, or most of them that is, so you don't have to encounter the same problems. So thank you to the developer who has helped me. Again, thank you to Jim for making the thumbnails, I love them. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all will like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. See you all later. Bye.